So today we're going to talk about the Karamazov brothers, which is a great novel by the Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Karamazov brothers was first published in serial form between January 1879 and November 1880 in Russian. The Karamazov brothers is Dostoevsky's last work and for many his masterpiece. Now, I read the Karamazov brothers because one of my reading projects for this year was reading some of the Russian classics, so I decided why not to start by one of the greatest, which also happened to be one I knew the least about. In fact, I knew nothing about the Karamazov brothers when I first picked it up. And in case you're thinking of doing the same thing, going in cold was not a problem at all for me. Now, I don't read Russian, so I had to read it in translation. I chose this Oxford World's Classic Edition, which is translated by Ignat Apsey or Apsey. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. In fact, I am not sure how to pronounce the names of the characters in this novel either, because I don't speak one word of Russian. So I do apologize to any Russian speakers watching this video, okay? I'm doing my best. So before going into the novel itself, let me talk about Dostoevsky and the context of this novel just a little bit, okay? So born in Moscow in 1821, Dostoevsky is considered one of the greatest, all-time greatest Russian writers, and he's celebrated to this day for his exploration of human psychology. Now, Dostoevsky wrote novels, short stories, and essays. He also worked as a journalist, and I'm not usually intimidated by great writing, quote unquote, but I must confess that I've always found Russian literature intimidating. This is probably because I feel I know or understand truly little about Russian culture, and also because the great Russian writers are always discussed with such solemnity and reverence that it can almost be off-putting. So I don't want to contribute to that in my review at all. I want to encourage you to read Dostoevsky and other Russian authors and help you as much as I can to make their work accessible. Now, for me, what worked was reading Tolstoy. That helped me a lot. If you feel intimidated by Russian literature, I recommend Anna Karenina or some of Tolstoy's shorter fiction. But I'm sure I'll talk more about Tolstoy in future videos for sure. So let's leave him aside, and today we're here to talk about Dostoevsky, so let's do that. Let's talk about his great novel, The Brothers Karamazov. And the first thing I want to say about this book is that, believe it or not, I think it is a fun read. I enjoyed it from page one. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it is because of the translation I read. I couldn't either confirm or deny that, since I haven't read any other translations I could compare it with. But the fact is that I had a great time reading The Brothers Karamazov. And as you know, if you watch my reviews, I hardly talk about the plot or, I never spoil anything about the books I review. And this video is not going to be an exception to that. I will not discuss the plot at length, but I want to set the novel up for you before going into it and telling you why I think it is so great. So from the title, we can surmise that this novel is going to deal with a group of brothers, and that is indeed the case. The brothers Karamazov are three. Well, there is also a fourth brother, but he's illegitimate. Now, they all share the same father, but only two of them have the same mother. All three brothers have quite different personal circumstances and personalities. The novel is set when all the brothers are already adults and they meet one another. Now, the father is Fyodor Pavlovich, who is probably the worst father in world literature. He just doesn't give a flying monkeys about any of his sons. All he cares about is money, women, and drinking. Now, let's talk about his sons. So there is Dmitry Fyodorovich, also known as Mitya. He's the eldest son and the only child from Fyodor Pavlovich's first marriage. Dmitry is also the son who has more in common with their father. Like his father, like Fyodor Pavlovich, Dmitry Fyodorovich is also a heavy drinker and a womanizer. Now, then the second brother is Ivan Fyodorovich, also known as Vanya. He's the middle son and the first from his father's second marriage. Ivan is an intellectual. He's a loner, he's an atheist. And finally, there's Alexei Fyodorovich, also known as Alyosha. He's the youngest, and because he's from his father's second marriage, he and Ivan are full brothers. Now, unlike Ivan, Alexei believes in God. He is the hero of the novel, I think, and the character that I believe readers are meant to like and empathize with the most. Now, the central question of this novel is, if God doesn't exist, does that mean that everything is allowed and that there is no difference between right and wrong? And if there is no right or wrong, then should murder be allowed? Now, the Karamazov brothers deals with religious faith and doubt. That is the central conflict of the novel, and all the three brothers will position themselves around that question. Alyosha has a central role because he's often the mediator between his two brothers. Now, in the novel, one of the characters is murdered, and the novel then becomes a compelling courtroom drama where the reader tries to put things together and tries to find out who the murderer is. I'm not going to tell you who gets murdered and who the suspects are, although that's easy to find out, and a lot of people already know that even if they haven't read the book. But I didn't know that going in, and I enjoy finding out, so I wouldn't want to rob you of the same pleasure if you don't already know. The Karamazov Brothers was my first Dostoevsky, and having enjoyed the experience, I would say that it is probably a good place to start, even though it was his last novel. My next Dostoevsky, I think it's going to be Crime and Punishment, but gradually I want to make my way through his most famous fiction. But of course, this is just my opinion. Now, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. Let me know if you have read the brothers Karamazov or the Karamazov brothers or any other Dostoevsky. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Juan and I post a new book review every Saturday. The best way not to miss any of my reviews is for you to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. And this is all from me for now. I hope that you are all doing very well, and I hope to see you again very soon for another book review. Bye for now.